our contributions in education will be our legacy in this industry.
Whether it's through live education or maybe through social media, we're always trying to make a personal connection with you, the learner.
At Sanvia, we believe our smile is our business card and our personality is our logo. And how we make people feel after you experience our education and tools is our trademark.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us, my friends, and be a part of the Sanvia community.
Hi, friends. Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for Sanvia. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. As the title suggests, this is our opportunity to speak to you from a little different perspective. When COVID hit, we realized that our community needed something beyond just simple hairdressing techniques. We needed some support, both emotionally, spiritually, physically. And so that's the purpose of Wellness Wednesday. So today, I get to have a really cool and super interesting guy on. I started to kind of catch wind of Carlo through my friend Ashley Moriello, who we had on before. And I just was really kind of fascinated with his energy in it. And the more we get to talk, the more I just get super excited about more conversations with this person. So without any further ado, I don't want to take up too much time with some long drawn out intro. So guys, put your hands together, give us some likes, give us some thumbs up. Mr. Carlo Novoa.
Andrew, how are you? Thank you so much for having me. That video, I was like sitting here just watching it in the green room, just so exciting. It's like, I love that. And I love that this is what all of you guys are doing, is to really not only create, but to continue to develop the foundation of what it is to have a strong community. Thank you for having me be a part of this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so excited. So, Carlo, I kind of clued you in on this, and I'm going to clue the rest of the audience in. I'm just going to call it out. I've been listening to this new podcast, the Sacred Sons podcast, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to kind of steal from, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the host's name, but I'm going to kind of steal from the host here, because he starts out every podcast with this, and I think it's so brilliant. So, Carlo, if you don't mind, let's just take a nice deep breath in. We'll let that deep breath out. And just check in with where we are currently. And just out of curiosity, what's present for you today?
For me?
Yeah.
Gratitude.
Tell me more.
Yeah, gratitude. For me, gratitude is a place that I really love to be in, because you can't be in gratitude and be in lack. You can't be in gratitude and be in fear. You can't be in gratitude and be in doubt. And so for me, gratitude is a place where, gratitude opens the door to possibility. It opens the door to potential. It opens the door to a greater sense of being. So for me, gratitude is a really great place to feel and to connect with.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's
what about
awesome.
you?
I kind of would place it in the same point. I just feel like tremendous gratitude for the fact that I've got this awesome home that I live in. I get to work from home. Especially with everything that's happening out there, I feel like it's so important right now to just be just really in that state of gratitude for anything that's present for us. So I'm there with you.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. When I do a Sunday message on Facebook on Sundays, and one of the I do a grounding breath exercise, and connect to 3 breaths: the breath of gratitude, the breath of love, and the breath of alignment. And I always share with people, if you don't have a practice, right? Because everybody's like, oh, what is a practice? And I feel that a lot of people hesitate from having a practice because they think it needs to look like what either they've seen or they heard. Like it needs, I need to have a temple and incense burning and gongs and a practice is literally just you checking in with yourself. You know, I was talking to Yurish the other day, and same thing with meditation. People are like, oh my God, I feel like I need to have like this meditative pillow, and I need to have incense, and I need to have the right music. And it's like, no, just sit down somewhere. Find a chair that you're comfortable. You know, find a chair that supports your back, where you could sit, you know, upright and your feet are flat on the ground, and you could place your hands on your lap. It's like, that's all, right? And so a practice to me is just you checking in with you first, right? Before you check in with the news, before you check in with social media, before you check in with anyone else, just check in with you so that you can dictate what your day will be like and not an outside source. Yeah. Yes. And so, you know, and sometimes for someone, I'm like, listen, for you, it might be you go for a run, you know, just and be present, like no iPod, no headphones, just you be present with your run or your walk, or go out in your yard and just sit there for a minute and just breathe that in. And so any of that could be a practice. So I tell people, if you don't have a practice, you know, just something what we just did right now, just that level of check-in, take a deep breath and see what's coming up for you, right? And so I got it a little bit more, you know, check in, take the breath of gratitude first. I encourage people to check in with 3 things right at that moment that they're grateful for, right? Just right now in that moment, what are you grateful for? And then when I say check in with love, when I say take that breath of love, I'm not talking about the greeting card or the marketing or the Valentine's Day love. I'm talking about that substance, that vibration, that frequency that not only we're made out of, but we're made from, right? So we have to remember that we as human beings, we gave all of these things language and words, right? We're like, oh, I'm feeling this vibration, this thing. Oh, let's call it love. And then we ran with it, right? But at its core, it's a frequency, it's a vibration. And if you check in with that, with your own self, then you realize that that vibration, that frequency that we call love, right? That substance is not only within you, but it's within all of us. And so then I can feel that for somebody else, right? In a way that it's truly authentic. And then also when it comes into my life, I can recognize it and I don't have to run from it or sabotage it, because I recognize its authenticity. Yeah. Yes. And then the third breath, you know, the breath of alignment is aligning yourself with that which is everywhere present, right? Call it the universe, call it the great law of life, call it God, call it whatever you're comfortable with calling it. But that essence, that vibration that is in all things, as all things, I always tell with people, I go, imagine it's literally keeping the bodies of water from falling off of the face of the earth. While it is doing that, it is also living and moving and having its way in through and as your very life. And so when you take that breath and you connect with that, you go, wow, well, not if, but because this is true for me, this has to be true for Andrew. This has to be true for my neighbor and the person across the street and the coworker that I'm challenged by. So just taking those 3 breaths in the morning as part of your practice allows you to check in, you know?
Yeah. Already we're getting so many great comments too. I don't think I told you this, but on the side of your screen, Carlo, if you want to watch the comments coming in, you're welcome to switch it to live chat. If you want me to kind of manage the comments and stuff, that's totally fine too. But you know, Jesse from Mexico City just saying we are live.
Diane
just saying gratitude frequency.
Yes.
Anna, looks like you check in to see if there's any messages from the universe.
Oh, any messages today from the universe? Anna Chechi Smith. Yeah. So one of the things that I do in my live that I do is I always read a letter from the universe.
Oh,
right?
Okay, cool.
I always share with people like this. So I always share with whoever shows up on the live that this letter comes here from the universe, but it's for every single individual who will either watch it on the live or will watch it later on, you know, and it's random. I have this book called Letters from the Universe. And I open it up and I'm like, okay, what's the letter today? What's the message? So that's something that I do. Thank you, Anna. So you said to the right of my screen, change it to live.
Yeah.
Comment.
There should be a thing that says live comments.
There we go. Yeah, now I'm seeing the comments. Okay, perfect. Great.
Oh, cool. And my friend Earl Sage Wolf Cooper, He's in the house and he's saying a morning practice is a must. Actually, he's the one that turned me on to that Sacred Sons podcast.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you for that, Earl, because now he turned me on to it. And literally right before I came on, I already like subscribed to it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You know? And
Rachel is saying, this is crazy. No idea you guys would ever talk about this subject. That's kind of the thing, Rachel. Like, we as a company even have kind of just come to this place where, like, you know what? We have so much more opportunity to connect with our community on like completely new subject matters besides just hairdressing. And, it's not going to be the right thing for a lot of people. Like, we only have, anywhere from like 80 to maybe like 150 people that watch this particular episode. Right. Whereas if we're doing hair content with Sam, we'll have 1,000, 1,500 people watching simultaneously. But, we just realized that this is a place that we can continue to serve our community. So, yeah.
It's really interesting, right? To Rachel's comment, one of the hashtag that I have, I always put, I love hashtag my tribe, right? And I started this belief system in the hairdressing community as a tribe. And I really find that we're a unique group of individuals that get called to do this practice, right? This beauty practice, this hair practice. I really believe that it calls us, we don't call it, as much as we want to go, oh no, I knew since I was a kid. Beautiful. I'm not going to disagree with you. I feel that it calls us. Yeah. And I feel that anyone who is in the arts, and this is an art, when I'm speaking with students, when I'm speaking with artists behind the chair, when I'm working with artists, I always say, remember, you're an artist. This fiber that we call hair is what you use your creativity to express your art form, just like an artist would mold a sculpture or would paint a painting or write a poem, or this is our art form. And so I really feel that the artist, at some point, if we all become conscious of also our spiritual connection. And and we just become conscious of it, because I feel they both go hand in hand. Because it's and I'm not saying that an accountant isn't spiritually connected. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure, I get it.
I'm saying that the call for this particular art form, I feel, goes hand in hand with that level of spirituality and that level of awakening and that level of, at some point we always get to a place of finding out who I am beyond my personality.
Yeah. Very cool. Hi, Kimar. Thanks for joining us. Tara's in the house. Yes. Nancy Torres says, we all get called at different ages too. And that's so true, because I'll tell you what, I definitely was not very spiritually connected for that first year of my apprenticeship. I was I was kind of anything but spiritually connected. So this is definitely something that kind of developed in much later. For sure.
Yeah.
For me.
No, absolutely. And I feel just like everything else, we've all heard that saying before, right? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I feel that that's in all things. It doesn't have to be a physical teacher. It could be a book that someone hands you. It could be a phrase in a song. It could be a conversation get started that somehow it hits you in a different way that it hadn't. And it's only because you are vibrating at a frequency with that new information that was given to you sounded differently for whatever reason at that moment. Yeah. At that moment, it was like, oh, wait, what did you say that again? And all of a sudden and what I always call it is like at that moment, we get snagged by the truth. And, once you've been snagged by truth, it's very, at least for me, and I'm thankful, it's been very challenging to unsnag myself. Because now I want to know more, Now I'm curious to find out more about life and us and, our purpose and our contracts and everything else.
Awesome. Hey, and that's kind of a great segue, because one of the things I want to ask you about today, and I know that we do kind of have a subject we want to hit today, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, of course.
But I wanted to ask you about being certified as an Agape licensed spiritual practitioner. Can you kind of tell us what that's about? Because the reason I was super curious too is I first got turned to Michael Beckwith when he was on The Secret. And he just had this, like, especially almost out of anyone else that was on that screen, it was just like, whoa, energy that came off the screen. I've just been such a fan ever since. So just curious what your experience was.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? Again, this is why, you and I talked about this briefly on our conversation last week or a couple weeks ago. And I really feel that each of us gets called, and that the universe, again, life, God, whatever you're comfortable with calling it, will speak to us in what I call the path of least resistance, right? As human beings, we are meant to go from point A to point B. Like that's it. The God would just want us to, or the universe would just want us to go from point A to point B. Like that's what it wants and knows for us. But we're human. So we'll go A, Z, W, monkey, X, Y, zebra, and then eventually come to B, right? You know what I mean? And the universe goes, this was your path. You were meant to get to B. If what you need to do is do all of that, and even all that is on purpose. So anyways, it's funny because I was a big fan of Oprah Winfrey and the Oprah Winfrey Show. Okay. And so to the point that I had a private suite. This was before suites even came into the picture. I was working at a salon in West Hollywood upstairs. They were private suites. I had a private suite. I had an assistant at the time, interestingly enough, who I felt had a lot of stuff going on in her life. I changed my lunchtime to 3:00 in the afternoon so that we wouldn't book clients. And I brought in a TV CD combo. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, totally.
So that at 3:00 we could watch, because Oprah Winfrey started having a guest. Her name is Iyanla Van Sant, an amazing author, an ordained minister. This woman just blew my mind, right? So we would have it, and I would sit there, and I'm sitting there with, this is before iPads, and I'm sitting there with like a legal notepad taking notes of this woman talking. And then all of a sudden, my assistant goes, "Oh, so this is our lunch?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay, well then I'm gonna go and I'll be back when we." And I was like, "No, wait, I brought this because I think it would help you." You know what I mean? But I didn't say that. I was like, "Okay, right." Anyways, so I'm watching this, I'm recording, and I lend it to a friend of mine. A friend of mine starts that I know from work, every once in a while goes to this place called Agape, which is the spiritual center that Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith was the founder and the minister at, right? Mm-hmm. And they do a spiritual conference once a year called Revelations. They have different speakers from all over the world, and people come from all over. And Iyanla Van Sant was going to be one of the guests. And right, this is how this works. So she goes, "Hey, you know that lady?" Because I would take the things, record them, and then I would share them with my friend. And she would do like a book club, but they would invite girlfriends to her house to watch the recording that I shared with her. Anyway, so she's like, "That woman that you love so much, blah, blah, blah. She's going to be a guest speaker, et cetera, et cetera." I said, "Fantastic. I'm already booked that weekend, but is it possible that you could go just to the night each person speaking?" She said, "Yes." Fast forward, I was like, I'm going to meet this woman, and I'm going to tell her, because by then I've read her books, and I'm going to tell her how she's actually changed my life. And I know she's heard this from thousands of people. I meet her. That'll be another program because that's a full conversation. But as I'm walking around and I'm looking at these people, and I could see without them saying anything. And this is what I always tell people. I don't want anyone to convince me about their practice. I want to see how it lives in your life. I want to see how it shows up in you, through you, as you, and all around you. I want to see how you show up as a human being because of the practice and the work and the path that you follow, right? So I'm like, these people, like they're walking around and I can see and I can feel this vibration. Is there a place that they go to? Is there like where do they hang out? You know what I mean? So I go to the place and I find out. And I started going to Sunday service. And then I was like, you know what? I want to become more involved. And then next thing you know, one day I'm walking into the spiritual center, and there's tables outside from different vendors. And one of the vendors was the University of Transformational Studies and Leadership. And I was like, oh, and something literally like, it was like, I didn't have a choice. And something just like pushed me in my back. And before I knew it, I'm standing there going, "Hi, so this is a university?" They're like, "Yes." "And how does this work?" And blah, blah, blah. And I started taking these classes for my own insight and my own knowing. Mm-hmm. And then when I would go to Sunday service, Reverend Michael would say, there are licensed spiritual practitioners in the sanctuary, and they're holding the space for us here while we do service, right? They're like almost in a sort of meditative holding the space. And I thought,
cool.
God, how generous. You're almost like this anonymous being in the back that you're just holding this space. I was like, I want to be of that kind of service. Like, I want to do that. I want to just be someone that just is like, I just want to elevate the energy by just sitting there in a meditative state, in a prayerful state, whatever that is, or whatever they were doing. And so I didn't connect the two. And so I'm doing the program. Finally, somebody says, are you going into the master's program? And I was like, what do you mean? They go, the accredited classes you've been taking is to go into the master's program. So then, of course, all my chatter comes up, and I'm like, masters? No one in my school, in my home, in my family, university, let alone masters. Like, this is ridiculous, you know? But including all of that chatter, I kept going, and I decided to enter it and to go through it. Had classes with Reverend Michael. He would come into the classes, and we would sit there and have these conversations. And it was just a really amazing thing, because for the first time I realized that the beauty industry that had called me because it was through that door that I was going to enter this other door. Life has it so beautifully planned, because if I would have heard about this at 17 when I started beauty school, it would have been too big for where I was in my consciousness. Who do I think I am? That's too big for me. I will never be a licensed spiritual practitioner, blah, 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 blah. And so the universe goes, great. So beauty school it is then. You know what I mean? It's like, so you go, and thank God it was beauty school, and I'm not in a mine, chipping at rocks or something, Right. I'm thankful that it's a beautiful industry that I love so much, and that I was able to, how many people in this lifetime, and I'm still open for more, get to do more than one thing that they're not only passionate about, but they're in love with doing, Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. Jeanette's saying, wow, what a wonderful story. And yeah, such a great story. And I'd be curious, those of you that are watching, how many of you can kind of relate to what he's saying? Because I know that was kind of one of the points that I definitely related to you on. As you started to say, it was almost like the beauty industry was this path to so many other things that have happened within my life. Like, I definitely would not be a life coach if it wasn't, well, I guess I can't say that, Carlo, but like, the beauty industry did lead me to the opportunity to coach underneath the person that I've coached with for how long now? 16 years. And she's been my mentor. She's the one that trained me. She's the one that introduced me to different paths within coaching. And so, the beauty industry, it hasn't just been about, hey, like, I'm going to do some hair and, and please don't take that the wrong way if that's your path. Like, I know plenty of people that's what they've done for 35, 40 years at this point, and they loved every single moment of it. But there was one comment, Barbie was saying as a kid, she wanted to be a hairdresser to the stars. Looking back on her career, she realizes that every single one of her clients was a star. And like, even if that's the path, like, the beauty industry just puts us in connection and in this roadway that it puts us in places that I think we've never expected.
And we meet people we would never have expected. Listen, as of today, I have the most amazing relationship with my mom. So that's not even an issue. I love her. We have great conversations. But like a lot of us, I had challenging times with my mom, right? Especially in that 17, 18, 19-year-old phase of my life. And through this industry, right, I find I get 3 moms. I get 3 women that show up and provide. One of them today, she saw something I did, and she just messaged me. She's like, God, I just love you so much. I call her my spiritual mom. This woman named Carol DiPiccioto, right? She was a manicurist at a salon that I worked at, but I always say that was your disguise, right? Her work was so much bigger. She was an intuitive. She was an incredibly spiritual woman. She gave me my first, back in the day, we called them self-help book. It was a book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And for the first time, I'm hearing these words that are not dogmatic. I'm hearing these words that are embracing me, that are not saying you're wrong or you're bad or you're this. And so as a kid at that age, that's how I get introduced. Then Roberta Bloom, one of the clients of the gentleman that I assisted, she ended up being my client. She was my Jewish mother. I would be more afraid to introduce her to someone that I was dating than I would be my own mother, because to her, they were never good enough, because she held me at such a high regard. And at that time in my life, that's what I needed. I needed a mom to go, don't get fooled, honey. You're the better part of this deal. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, Natalia, who was my Latino mom, and so I'm like, that happened. And it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, I'm in need of this mother figure. It just happened organically, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And that was in this industry, because, I didn't know at that time that what was taking place was that both of us, right, each one of us individually and collectively together, were being participants of the law of circulation. Right. There was a giving and a taking that was happening simultaneously. So nobody knew who was giving and who's receiving. So as I'm receiving the gift from these women, I'm giving them the gift to give this mother energy, and as I'm receiving, I'm giving, and as I'm giving, I'm receiving. It was just beautiful. And it wasn't until later on, as I continue my practice, to go, wow, that's the law of circulation. That's how it works, you know? Yeah. So no, this industry, like, please, I'm honored to still be behind the chair. I'm still behind the chair 3 days a week.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to answer a couple questions here. Oscar, you're asking if Carlo has a website. Carlo, you don't have a website, but
no,
they
we're
can
working on it
contact you
right now.
through your social, right?
I think you're putting up my Instagram handles. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can connect with Carlo there.
And then, of course, we're on Facebook as under Carlo Novoa, and I'm working on my website right now. Actually, yes.
Me too.
Yeah. Yes.
Always under construction. Oh,
right,
and our friend Mr. Perez.
Oh, Jorge, how are you from Puerto Rico?
He was talking about how you really affected him 8 years ago when he met you in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Again, that experience when I met him was so phenomenal. It was so amazing, right? Because here I'm in Puerto Rico, and it was a PPD event. Redken had an artist, it had an artist. And by the way, I'm forgetting the artist from Redken. She was a female. We connected immediately. She was like, how can I support you? What do you need? It was just this level of community that I love so much. And I remember that the host, it's interviewing me, and I don't know, the 200 people, Jorge, maybe 300 people in the audience, maybe more, I don't remember. An amazing motivational speaker, Moriyama Oyola. That's funny. I have her book right next to me. That's so interesting. And Jorge's on. Oh, wow. She spoke first. It was a beautiful thing. Anyways, so the person introducing me, she's going, Beverly Hills hairdresser, Beverly Hills, and she keeps saying Beverly Hills, this, that, and the other. And I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying this. But you know what's interesting? I'm watching through the curtain, and I can see the people starting to do this. Like I can see them like almost like they were standing, like sitting like this, but I could see them like going, oh, he like almost, and this is just my interpretation, like he's not gonna get us. You know what I mean? Right? So I knew in that moment that I needed to connect, and I walked out and I said, I want you. I said, oh, they said, oh, give him my hand. And the claps were like this, right? It was like, right? And I was like, no, in Spanish. I said, no. I said, absolutely not. I said, that is not for me. I said, this is for you. I said, because you've worked incredibly hard to get yourself right here. I go, they told me that I was coming to be with artists, not accountants. I go, not scientists. I go, so let's hear it. I go, I want to hear you guys just clap. I go, but clap for yourselves. Give yourself an applause. I go, because I am you. I said, my mom cleaned houses for a living, right? She took 3 buses to clean the house. I said, my stepfather, delivered furniture in a truck. I said, I took 3 buses to get to the first salon that I assisted at. I was like, you are watching yourself on the stage. The same thing that's available for me is available for each and every single one of us. And everyone was like, yeah. And then, because I was like, no, we need to understand, and we need to let people know this, whatever this is that you're seeing me in, is available for everybody and then some. This is just my thing. It may not be yours. And if it is, it's also available to you. And then some, Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of that's similar to the message that Sam usually shares too, because Sam kind of had a similar lifestyle, you know, where he grew up. He wasn't wealthy. He
Yes.
didn't have like some, you know, big budget to go to school and all this stuff. Like he worked in fields and he, you know, scrubbed shoes at his dad's barber shop, and
Yes.
like he worked so hard. And you know,
Yes.
he constantly is telling people like, I just happen to have done really well for myself, but I'm no different from you. Like we are the same person. Like if I did it, you 100% can do it. So
That's exactly right. And that's the thing that people connect with Sam. That's the thing that I connected with him right away, was his humility, right? He's a humble human being, including the fact, you know, this is not to blow up anybody's pants, including the fact that he's Sam Villa, right? He's also incredibly humble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what people connect.
Yeah. That's what drew me to him for sure.
Yes.
Because I'd had some experiences in the past, like I think many people have, that if you've been an artist for bigger companies, you run into leadership that maybe the ego's not as in balance or in check. And when I first met Sam, there was just this, like, there was no, hey, I'm up here, you're just here, because I went out to assist him at a photo shoot in New York with Geneva Cowan.
Right.
And, you know, I showed up and I kind of expected Sammy to come in with not necessarily like any kind of attitude, because I trusted Geneva so much and she had spoke so highly of him and I didn't know him at all. But I definitely expected him to come into the space with a little bit of a, you know. But man, he just came in and it was like his first thing was just one by one, Carlo. He'd go to each person and connect with them personally. It wasn't like, hey guys, I'm here. It was one person, personal connection. Next person, personal connection. And, you know, when he came to me, it was no different. It's like, wow, thank you for being here. And just, yeah, that hooked me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Hey, so I want to kind of just shift gears a tiny bit, because there's something that I think that you have to offer that's super important that we hit. And it was when you said this to me, it just kind of hit me in the face. And it was that intention guides our attention.
Yes.
So is it okay if we kind of take the conversation in that direction?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us, what did you mean when you said that? Because I don't know that you even knew that you said it, and I repeated it back to you, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, so I share, right, in my teaching, that's philosophy, right, that when you said your intention, your attention will follow, right? And so one of the things that I find is important, in addition to just the practice we did when we started, just to check in, take a breath, is to set an intention for your day. What's your intention for today? Whether it's in work, whether it's in personal, whether it's with business, whether it's with a client, whether it's, you know, maybe you scan your day and you're like, oh, Jane Doe's coming in today and I'm always challenged by her. You know, my intention today is to connect with her at a deeper level, whatever it is. But when you set an intention, right? What the power of the intention is that it'll guide your attention back into alignment. What do I mean by that? We're human beings, right? So let's just say, for example, today my intention was to be in a state of gratitude throughout my day, was to find things to be grateful for, right? But I'm human, and all of a sudden it's 1 o'clock, right? And my attention starts to now shift into a place of where I'm in lack, and I'm in complaint, and I'm in judgment. Right. And I could go, my intention now will go, oh, hold on a second. Your intention was to be in gratitude all day. Look what your attention is. Realign back your attention with your intention. Right. So, and it's not about us beating ourselves up. It's not about going, oh my God, I can't believe it. This morning I set an intention to do this and look at me. I'm so dumb. I'm stupid. It's like, no. It's like all you're doing is you're aligning it. You're aligning it, right? You're aligning it so that your attention will now be back in alignment with your intention. So where you set your intention, your attention will follow. And then what you'll realize in setting an intention is that a faster quickening will begin to happen, right? So what do I mean by a faster quickening? A faster quickening is that now here's your intention, right? And here's your attention, they're in alignment, and they start to do this. The faster quickening means you'll start to see it sooner. You'll start to see your attention drift from your intention much sooner than you did yesterday and the day before and your day before. It's a faster quickening, right? All of a sudden, it'll happen before your attention leaves. But it's important to celebrate that. It's important to be able to go, wow, today I set an intention that I was going to do this. And man, around noon, I realized that my attention wasn't on that. I realigned it. And God, yesterday wasn't until 3 o'clock that happened for me. The day before, I went all day without realizing that I had set an intention. The week before, my God, I didn't even know what setting an intention was. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
But it's important to celebrate. It's important to go, wow, and today I set an intention, man, and it wasn't even noon by the time I aligned my attention back with my intention. And celebrate those little wins, those faster quickenings. Celebrate that, right? And in doing that, we don't realize that we are exercising our consciousness to become not only the person that's doing it, but also the watcher, also the witnesser, also the observer that goes, "Ooh, Carlo, look at your attention. Oh, thank you. Boom, and I'm back."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, the faster quickening. And I like that you said that it's an exercise. And I think that this helped me with this kind of stuff quite a bit, is just recognizing that from a neuroscience perspective, this is kind of a muscle in a way. Like we have to exercise it in the right way. And it's like anything else. When you first start, it's not going to necessarily go perfect. It's got to be something that we're willing to continually recheck into and practice for it to become more normal. And Carlo, I'll tell you, like I've been studying this kind of stuff for a long time, and I still do this. Just want to show you guys this. So on my lock screen.
Yes.
This is how I remember to check in with my intention.
Yes.
I build myself a little screensaver in my little art program that I have. So every time I open my phone, that's the first thing I see.
That's it. Andrew, a word that you said right now that is important, and I feel that we dismiss it so much, is practice, right? I always share with people there was a time before time where no one walked up to you and said, "Hey, Andrew, how's your religion?" Or, "Hey, Andrew, how's your spirituality?" They walked up to you and they said, "Hey, Andrew, how's your practice?" And you said, "You know what? Today, my practice is really good. Man, I checked in this morning, I meditated, I got myself grounded. I'm seeing the good in all things. I'm seeing possibility and potential. My practice is good. Yesterday, not so good. But man, today I'm on it. Tomorrow, I don't know. But man, my practice is good today." And if we do that, it allows us to give ourselves a little bit more grace, right? It allows you to give grace to go, oh, it's a practice. It's not a perfection. It's a practice. Because every time you are going to discover a new sense of yourself just by your practice, that all of a sudden that information that you received 5 years ago, you read it or hear it or see it again in this new level of practice that you've been on, and you'll see it from a different place. That you will have to your point, get used to. It doesn't matter how many years to go, wow, there was a time where this would challenge me, and now it doesn't. Ooh, that's pretty cool. The Dalai Lama says in a book called Ethics for the New Millennium that he wrote, he said the reason that people give up on themselves, so listen to this, not on religion, not on spirituality, but the reason they give up on themselves is because they believe that at some point the chatter is going to go away, right? Blair Singer calls it the little voice, right? And spiritual practice is called the ego. So the reason that people give up on themselves is because eventually they believe the chatter is going to go away, right? The reality is that the chatter will never go away. What shows that we've elevated in consciousness, that we have insight, is that the chatter shows up, but now I hear it differently than I did before. or I address it differently, or I respond to it differently. Or now I say, wow, there was a time when I would hear this and it would bind me. It would cripple me. And now I hear this and I move forward anyways.
Yeah.
That's your practice, right?
Yeah. So how do you practice that intention setting?
Yeah. So, I start with this is for me. I start with a meditative and a prayer practice, right? And then I finish
what,
that.
What does that look? Is it okay if I ask it? What does that look like? Are you okay
yes.
with going a little deeper with that?
Please. So here, this is my office. This is my office / meditation room where I'm in. And so I come in here and I sit here and I meditate. I have my bowl, right? This is just me, that I just create the vibration. I start with that. I'll light some incense because I'm very much sense, right? And so I like to create a vibration. So I'll set this up while I'm warming up my ginger water with a little bit of turmeric and stuff like that. So I have the incense going, and I walk in here, and then I have my meditative practice. And sometimes it'll be a guided meditation that I'll listen to. Sometimes it'll just be like after I ring my, my bowl 3 times or something like that, then I'll just go into a meditative practice. Then I have my prayer practice, and then I do a gratitude journal, right? I write 5 things that I'm grateful for. I think that's very key. I literally write down 5 things that I'm grateful for, and it's interesting. I remember once I was doing a coaching session for a group that had hired me, and I shared this with them about starting a practice of doing 5 things that you're grateful for in the morning. And I have to tell you, I found it interesting. I didn't judge it. I found it interesting that at least 5 people were like, "Oh my God, 5 things." And I was like, wow. I woke up. My lungs are breathing without the assistance of any machine. My heart is beating. Oh my God, look at me using my limbs. I can see clearly. I can hear. I can taste. Oh, I have a roof over my head. I'm already at 5. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow, I can walk. And if I am breathing with the assistance of a machine, it's like, wow, thank God there's a machine that helps me breathe still so that I can still be alive. It's like, thank God I didn't wake up hungry. Thank God I didn't go to bed hungry. I'm grateful that I can open up a cupboard and look and choose what I want to eat, And so so the moment that gratitude, I feel is something that hasn't gotten the attention, that really, that would give you the power of life that we're not aware of. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't realize that the moment that you're just in gratitude, one of my professors said this, I don't know if I shared this on our call, but my professor said to me once, Carlo, when you're in gratitude, when you find one thing to be grateful for, oh, I'm grateful that I have this pen, something so simple. All of a sudden, your container becomes bigger because you've become aware of your gratitude, so that more things will show up in your life for you to be grateful for. The moment you're grateful for those things, the container becomes bigger for more things to show up in your life for you to be grateful for. You acknowledge those, the container becomes bigger. It's again, the law of circulation, the law of cause and effect. Do you know what I mean? It's now you're vibrating at a frequency that is of the same frequency of that which you're asking for.
Yeah. So you're taking that time first thing in the morning to kind of set that space.
Yes.
In the energetic space, so that when you do go to set the intent, it's almost picture it like you're kind of building the foundation for that to be built on top of then.
Yes, absolutely. And it sounds like a lot. It literally is a 20-minute practice. Because I always tell people, I would like to encourage you to set up a morning practice. And if you do, to start with, don't have it be longer than 10 minutes. Because if you have it be longer than 10 minutes, when you're starting to create a practice, you'll find every excuse not to.
Right.
And if you say to yourself, oh man, my life is so crazy, I don't have 10 minutes for me in the morning, then you need to live, and this is without any judgment, this is with love on my heart, then you need to look at your whole life completely to say, how do I not have 10 minutes for myself in the morning? Let me really look at that I'm literally just said to myself, I don't have 10 minutes for me. So if it's, you look at an Olympic, anybody, a gold medalist swimmer, whatever, they get up earlier because they know what their goal is. Right. So then I'll get up earlier so that I could train. And you were saying this earlier, right? It's like the same thing that same thing is like that training, it's that practice. So it's like, got it. Okay. So I want to live a life that brings me more peace, more calm. Got it. I'll get up 10 minutes earlier. I know I already go to bed late. I know that I already wake up and I take care of that. And including all of that, I'm going to commit to myself that I'm going to get up earlier, not to do something for somebody else, but I'm going to get up earlier to give myself 10 minutes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so if you just did that, and the next thing you know, you just add another 5 minutes if you want to. If not, 10 minutes is sufficient. But my practice is my morning practice. It's about a 15, 20-minute practice.
Nice. And I think that is so key to kind of set, because I think that's one of the big reasons that people tend not to stay consistent with things, is because all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I'm not super happy. I don't feel like I'm very balanced. So all of a sudden I'm going to start going to the gym. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to, and they build out this like 2-hour system that has to happen every day. Yeah. If you're going from 0 to that,
yes,
no way. Like there's the 1%ers. Like you hear about someone that's like, they went from being like 500 pounds to being a yoga teacher that is perfectly fit and raw foodie in the course of a year. But that's 1%. Like that's that doesn't happen.
That's right. I always, I think I said, you're right. You're so right. That's such a great point. I always tell people when I'm doing coaching sessions individually or with groups, I always say, climb your hardest mountain first. Mm-hmm. What is that for you? What is the one that is holding up the more space in your awareness? What is that thing and you will know because it's the thing you're avoiding the most. That'll be your first like big green light, like, oh, it's that thing, because it's that thing that I avoid the most, that I don't want to think about, that I don't talk about, right? Whatever it is. If it's my anxiousness, if it's my stress level, if it's my fear, if whatever it is, then tackle that, right? Tackle that first. And so for me, listen, when this whole thing happened, this is for me, right? When this whole thing happened, when we knew that COVID-19 was here, right? I remember March 16th, I believe, is when we got the letter from the city of Beverly Hills saying, and we're shutting down. Mm-hmm. Like we're shutting down and everyone's closed. In that moment, Matthew, what I knew for me, because I know me, what I knew is, Carlo, this is the time when you need to go deeper and further into your practice. This is it, because this has the potential, pardon my French, but to knock you on your ass. Yeah. Like, I know me, and I know that if it wasn't for my practice, I would be in a fetal position in one room in my house somewhere. I know that. Like, I'm just being transparent, right? Yeah. And so for me, because we know ourselves, and more importantly, know that the universe, God, the great law of life, knows how you will listen, knows how you will see. So when you get an insight, don't go, oh, that seems so easy, make a right. No, make that right. It came so easy because the universe knows how you'll hear it. You know what I mean? It knows. And for me, I heard it so clear. I was like, you need to go deeper into your practice. So this is when like my practice became even a little deeper, meditated longer, prayed. Not only did my gratitude journal, but I started journaling more, right? I started reading. And because this is what I knew I needed to do, right? This is what I needed to do, so that now we're on this second shutdown and I stay in trust and I stay in faith. And I was just in listening to Carrie Lane. I think she made a comment right here. It was one of her lives, the Very Carrie Show. And that's one of the questions that we're asking. She was asking her guest is what do you do? And she asked for the people who were listening if they would say. And yes, Carrie Lane Gutierrez. And I said, literally, it's what has me saying it, that I am one day at a time. Like, without being cliche, it's like I'm literally just taking this one day at a time, because what this has taught me is to be so present in the now. That is what this keeps teaching me more. It's like, just be present. right? Don't live in God, why didn't I do that so that I would have been ready today? Well, guess what? You didn't, because you didn't have the information then to make that choice that you'd be ready today. But here you are. And don't live in the future of like, oh my God, well, what if we're still shut down in 6 months? I don't know. But guess what? Today we are, though. So what if you just focus on the now of this moment, without looking back at your yesterdays and forward into your tomorrow? In the now of this moment, how are you? Like literally check in with yourself to that level of being that present,
Yes. How did you use intention during that time period?
Oh, huge, right? So my intention, seriously, every day was the same. It was like to stay present to today. To stay present. My intention today is to stay present moment by moment. So that was my intention, but then I'm human, and my attention would go, oh my God, we're already in March, April, October, November. What if November we're still shut down? I'm like, oh, look where your attention is. Your attention is in November, and today's calendar says this is July 7th. So let's get back to July 7th. Let's get back to today. You're already in November, and you're not living in the now. So that is creating fear and doubt and thoughts of worry and lack and limitation. So in the now of this moment, what do you need, Carlo? Right now, what do you need? Okay, no, I'm nothing. My stomach's full, right? I can see, have a roof over my head, right? All right, God. So right now I don't need nothing. Got it. So stay in that. Stay in that, and then take it moment by moment. And then now, like anytime fear shows up for the future, go, okay, but in the now of this moment, without looking back at my yesterday and forward into my tomorrows, in the now of this moment, how am I? I'm good. Got it. And so forth and so on,
Yeah, definitely. And, Lucy mentioned, like, you do have to think about the future a little. And I don't think Carlo is suggesting by any means that we should not plan for the future.
Oh, please. But absolutely.
Definitely I think that the point is that most of us have a very deep set habit to live in the past and live in the future and not be present in the moment. So it takes a lot of intention, I think, to bring ourselves back into that space.
Yes.
I've been reading Dr. Joe Dispenza a little bit. Yeah, and what is so clear with what he says to me is that most of our suffering comes from living in the past and living in the future. And he's like, do this. Notice how many times per day you are stressed out when in this immediate moment, you have nothing to be stressed about. And I started to do that, Carlo, and we were driving home, dropped off my truck to get fixed. And I was like kind of thinking about the money, like all these different things were going through my head. And I just looked in the car, and my wife and I were just hanging out in the car, listening to good music, cruising out the road. And I'm like, wait, what? What do I have to be stressed about in this specific moment? Nothing. In fact, I should be filled with gratitude in this specific moment that I have my beautiful wife next to me, listening to great tunes, cruising down the highway.
Yes. No, you're absolutely correct. And just to echo that first part, what you said, it's like, no, by no means am I saying don't think about the future, right? But here's the thing. And I read this today, I believe. I wonder if it was Dr. Joseph said this too, but he said, so animals and us, we feel stress as well. Mm-hmm. But we, unlike the animals, we feel it before and we'll feel it afterwards.
Yes. He does talk about this.
He said that too?
Yes.
Like we as humans will feel stress before the stress, and then we'll feel stress after stress is gone. And the animals, no, I just thought I was being attacked. So I got stressed out. I'm not attacked anymore. Now I'm going on about my business. Like that's right. And Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now says stress comes because you're sitting right here and you want to be over there. Mm-mm. Instead of being fully present with here I am. And here's the reality. It's like, no one is saying don't think about the future, but many of us don't think about a future from this place to go, here's what I know. I know that prosperity and abundance and creativity and wisdom is my birthright. So I know that in the now of this moment and tomorrow and the day after that, that will still be my truth. It's very rare for someone to jump into that place when they're thinking about the future. Usually the future is attached with stress and thoughts of lack and limitation and fear and doubt and worry, right? You know, no one thinks about the future and goes, I just trust that all will be just as perfectly fine and in divine order as it is now for me, that it will be then as well. I'm going to just know that.
Yep. And kind of to the point of intention even, that was another thing that he talked about, is that if we set this intent that here is what I want my future to be, those things that you just mentioned.
Yes.
If we set that intent, we also need to feel that within our body, because I think the disconnect, going back to like the Secret, I think The Secret kind of focused so much on like, hey, if you just think about a bicycle, all of a sudden the bicycle is going to appear. Hey, if you just kind of really keep thinking about diamond rings, all of a sudden the diamond ring is going to show up for you. And that was kind of like the little bit of turnoff to me.
Yes, I agree.
But that connection of, no, if you intend these things, you must experience them. You said this about Urish. Tell him what you told me about Urish and his move.
Oh, yeah. So this is the thing, right? That so I'll say that first, and I want to address what you just said, because it's so magical. It's so on time. So Urish, who I call my brother, was moving back to New York, right? And he had already said, I'm moving back to New York. Like, it was already like, I'm moving. Things are starting. And he was, how do I look from apartments all the way over there? And all this stuff was stressing him out. And I said, here's the deal. What you need to know, that your move to New York is already in operation as much as it is as the day will come when you put that key in that lock, open that door, and walk in through that apartment in New York. The thing that's seeing it, it's not in physical form yet. But that doesn't mean the activity of it already isn't in transition to manifest. You see, but we don't think about that. We don't already start to know that that's true until we see it, instead of going, no, Anna Chechi puts right here, it is the will, power of the will. If you want it, you will do it, right? To start to go, here's what I know. What came up for me is I'm moving back to New York. That's what came up for me. If that wasn't supposed to happen, it wouldn't have come up for me. So I have to trust that in it coming up for me already, it's already in motion. I need to now vibrate at the frequency of that thing which I want. And I'm not going to vibrate at the frequency if I am in a place of fear, of doubt, of worry, and thoughts of lack and limitation.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then the thing, the same thing with what you were saying. And I completely agree with you. And I think that's why a lot of people also were turned off by it. Because they were like, all of a sudden they thought it was magic. It was like, oh, it's like Harry Potter. Like I said, oh, diamond ring. And then diamond ring appears. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, no. Here's the deal, right? What we have to know is that it's an all-knowing, it's an intelligent universe, right? So what people say is, instead of me saying, ooh, I want a Ferrari or I want a Porsche, right, for my car, what if I was to say, what I'm going to know is I'm going to know my divine perfect form of transportation. I'm going to know what's perfect for me, and I know that the universe knows what that is. Because if I get stuck on the Porsche, the universe is like, Carlo, you got a metal foot or a cement foot. I get you behind that Porsche, within minutes, you'll be in an accident. What are you talking about? You can't handle a car like that. Do you know what I mean? But I'm going, no, Porsche. And so when it doesn't happen for me, I go, see, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And we have to realize it's going, no, the universe, it's all knowing. It's an intelligent universe, right? And so what we have to trust is, I'm going to put myself into alignment to what the universe already knows for and about me. I'm going to put myself in alignment, my divine perfect place of living, my divine perfect place of employment, my divine perfect relationship, my divine perfect form of transportation, and trust that the universe knows what that is for you. You just become receptive to it, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. And that's another thing that is in Dr. Joe Dispenza's books, is you don't have to know how, you just have to be clear on what. That was another just huge thing that was like, because I get super stuck on that, Carlo. I have all these beautiful dreams, and I think about, okay, well, what are all the steps? And, well, how am I going to make that work and make this money and ... And guess where I am as soon as I go into that kind of dialogue, I'm in stress. I'm not generating the feelings of gratitude, not generating the feelings of, yeah, I'm in that space. I feel great. I'm successful. This thing is happening. And so in that moment that I start to stress out about, well, how am I going to make that happen? And how will I pay the bills if I do this? And how will I do this? Immediately, it's like shutting down the whole process.
That's it.
So we don't have to know how, like you said, whether you call it the universe or God or whatever you personally believe in, that knows what you need. And so you just have to set the intent and trust.
That's it. That's it. Look, I share this with people like on this because I think a lot of us are visual and we need to think it, right? I said, so here's look at it this way. That same power and presence we're talking about, call it God, call it the universe, has us at the precise distance from the sun. Literally the precise. It's like to perfection. If we were any closer to the sun, we would be having a completely different experience on this planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we were any further from the sun, we would have a completely different experience on this planet as well. But instead, this vibration, this divine energy has us at the exact distance from the sun, and nobody knows how. Nobody. Scientists can guess, and and quantum physicists go, we believe it's this and that. And I love watching those shows too, by the way. But we don't know, and yet we trust that it's just so. So how am I not going to trust that power and presence that has me at the precise distance from the sun so that I can have the experience that I'm having now with my regular human stuff? How am I not going to trust that?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense to me when I go there, to your point, because I do that too. And then I have to talk to myself, and then you would think that I have multiple personalities because I'm like, Carlo, now you know that that's not true. I know, but you know what I mean? So I do that as well,
Absolutely. Well, dude, an hour has just completely disappeared.
Yes,
we could probably go on for like 3 more. And I think that most of the people here would probably stay on with us because I don't know, like you'll definitely have to go back and check in on some of the comments, but
I love it. Mind blowing.
Powerful.
Yeah. So true. Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Love it. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Do us a favor.
Yes.
Because this is completely free education. And I'm not asking you this from the heart of Sambia as a company in hopes that we'll get more likes and shares on this video. I'm asking you from the heart of compassion that pay this forward. If you heard something today from Mr. Carlo that you think will help someone, please share this with people because this is the kind of content that can shift someone's life. We're seeing it in the comments, just how thankful people are for this kind of conversation. So please, 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 from the heart of compassion, from the heart of paying it forward, if you enjoyed this, share it with someone you love. Carlo, any kind of parting final wisdom for us?
Yeah, I literally would, again, I would completely fully agree. It's so interesting because I think as humans, we have this little sort of a doubt sometimes when we hear things like that, right? They're like, oh, I know what it's for. It's because more more. No, it's, I was reading this in this book called Love and Law by Ernest Holmes. And it literally was saying that if 51%, imagine, so 51% of humanity believed in the betterment for all, we would have it. 51%. That means there'd be 1% more than those who think, no, it should only be for me and should hoard it. So the reality is by sharing this level of information, by saying, hey, you know what? You said you've been going through some challenges, or you said you've got some, you love this kind of conversation. Man, tune in to Wellness Wednesday with Matthew. He gets some great guests. The conversations, I think, will assist you. They give, you might find a book to read, whatever it is, but it's to literally help each one of us so that together we could actually shift what is going on, not only in our cities or in our states or in our country, but actually we have the power to shift this entire planet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know a lot of people that were exposed to you today, maybe for the first time, would love to continue to connect with you. You can definitely see his Instagram handle right down there. Tell him about the places that they can continue to watch, because you have a couple of different things that you do on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, thank you for that. So on Sunday mornings, at 11:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Facebook. I do a Facebook Live called Sunday Message, and it's this conversation for an hour. But I do it for like I do a reading, I do the grounding breath exercise, then I do an affirmation that I come up with. I do a reading, and then I give a message that either it's something that's coming up for me or something that I hear or something. Then on Tuesdays with Yurish on @Lit From Within, which is my Instagram Live, we do Testimony Tuesdays. And it was really to create a place where we could start looking at things to testify to the goodness of life and not just look for the negative. And then Wednesdays, I felt that it was really important for us to listen to and to hear the feminine energy. So I created a live called Wednesday Women of Power. And I've been, the amount of letters and mail that I get from people saying, thank you for giving women a platform. Really quickly, I had a mom, teenage daughter, 13. She said, oh, you think your kids will never hear you, they don't pay attention to you. My daughter happened to be an ear's length of something that you said. And she goes, whoa, that was deep. And then before you know it, she came and sat next to me. She said, and started watching it. And now, and she took pictures and sent them to me. She now goes with her own iPad in her room and she's taking notes of the things that you do. So she goes on your lives and to hear them. And so we go, that's the power that we can all do when we decide to show up to be of service.
Yeah. And then you do a thing with Ashley on a regular basis.
And then on Ashley, on her on her Instagram Live, she invited me, and we started doing this decoding our trauma, our childhood traumas, and to start looking at how do those things show up as limited beliefs in our adult everyday lives. And that's on Fridays. And we usually do it either 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man, you're doing a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
So much gratitude for you for all this kind of additional work, because this is just side, energy that you're putting out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
And guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say, one of the things that I've learned is to serve because serving serves you. That's my motto.
Yes. That's a great way to finish it up too. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back next Wednesday, just lining up a couple more guests for you guys. So every Wednesday, we'll be doing this Wellness Wednesday. We'll be doing some personal development stuff. We're actually going to start to bring in a little bit of business content too, but more so from how do you work within your business, not so much financial stuff. So more to come for sure. Lots of hair education on the way as well. So stay tuned for more information on our schedules, on our social channels, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right. Bye, everybody. Take care.